Today we're visiting the vibrant Atlanta home of interior designer Jenna Gross. As the founder of Colordrunk Designs, it's no surprise that every room is bursting with punchy prints, bright colors, and sumptuous fabrics.
One of the things that I love about this room is that I mix so much tradition with modern, and that's why I have the bright white table. It's very contemporary, but that kind of helps offset all the hot pink lacquered walls, you know, the fine china that could also be seen as stuffy, and then the oil painting.
Her attention to detail is unmatched, and she points out the seemingly small touches she incorporated in her renovation that make a big impact.
We added the fluting detail just for a little bit more fun, a little unexpected fun. And then again, the circles that you see in our hallway in the wainscoting, and then also you see on all the custom doors we had made.
Jenna's home is a masterclass in maximalism, and she shares how she has seamlessly mixed traditional architectural elements with modern decor.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Jenna Gross in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm excited to show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hey, I'm Jenna Gross. My company is Colordrunk Designs. I'm an interior designer in Atlanta, Georgia. So we've lived in this house almost 14 years, and the way it happened is we always wanted to be on the street. And there was one house that came up for sale, but it was an eyesore. The rest of the houses have so much character. They're so beautiful. And while we weren't looking to do a renovation, that's what happened, and here we are. So what we loved about the house was not only the street and how close it is to downtown Decatur. We can walk to everything, work, school, restaurant. It's so great. But the house has a really large backyard, and it had a great footprint, but it was definitely lacking character, which is where we came in and changed a lot of that. So when we bought the house, we did a renovation with a builder. I was 8 months pregnant with my second child, and it was really wild. There were so many finishes that, you know, I appreciate and I wanted to incorporate. The builder wasn't really on par with any of that. So he was kind of a builder grade, let's get it done. And I was super pregnant. So I just was like, okay, whatever. Who knows how long we'll live here? Well, fast forward a few more years, and it was things like the crown molding that made me really sad. I know that's so ridiculous to say, but I love details, I love character, and this house just didn't have any of that. So we actually went through a second renovation instead of moving, because we actually thought about moving to a mid-century modern house, which is another style that my husband and I both really love. We decided this neighborhood's too great, the space in this house is too great, so let's really just zone in on what we love and let's make it, you know, fit our personality better. When we first bought the house, I sat down with the architect and I wanted it to be the same footprint as my grandparents' house. You'll hear a lot about the inspiration I drew from that house because I loved it. It was beautiful. But you walk in the front door into the foyer. To the right is the dining room, and the left is the formal living room. And then it walks into the breakfast room, which is open to the kitchen, and the main family room, and we wanted it to be open because we love to host and have friends over and just, you know, everybody to be together. All right, when I was working with the architect, I wanted the primary bedroom downstairs so that we have our own little wing, and we wanted the kids to be upstairs. So it's actually cool as you walk upstairs into this main living space, and that's the kids' playroom. And then on either side, there's 2 bedrooms with each of them having a Jack and Jill bath. So it was really great use of space. All right, so here we are with Dolly in the foyer, and when people first walk into the house, I wanted to give them a little warning of what they were about to see. So this is a really fun wallpaper, but I wanted it to have a neutral background with pops of color that are found throughout the rest of the house. We love art. My husband loves it as much as I do. And he, you know, collects pieces sometimes without asking, but this is one that he picked, and I think it's so fun because immediately you walk in and here we are with, you know, a very sophisticated chinoiserie wallpaper, but then with this, you know, pop art, and so I love that. And you'll see art all throughout the house. Like if we had all the money in the world, I think we'd collect as much art as we could. But we love details and we love prints. We love lots of fun. So I think it's so important to show your personality and, you know, when you're selecting items for your house or when you're renovating. And so when you first walk in, a few things that were very important to me were like the casings on the entries of each room. It's very detailed. The woodworker almost killed me, but I had a very specific design in mind, and it kind of leans back to that chinoiserie that I love so much, that I saw at my grandparents' house growing up. And then the polka dots, you know, we have the traditional wainscoting, but then I have the polka dots in the middle, which is super unexpected, but just kind of screams like, hey, we're here to have fun. You don't have to be so serious. So you'll hear me reference my grandparents' house that I love so much. And this is an exact replica of the door that they had at their home. And I had a woodworker make it exactly the same, except for painted pink, which is obviously my favorite color. And that is just like a, hey, welcome to the colorful house. Like it looks a little, you know, polished in the front, but the pink door screams fun. Another nod to traditional meets modern, but in a burst of color, is this Oshak that I love. It's by English Village Lane. It's just so fun. You can create whatever colors you need. And I feel like it's such a good fresh burst of color on the floor to help with all of the pattern I have everywhere else. And then like any entry, you need a drop zone. So I love that we have this like really thin console. You can put your keys, the kids put their whatever they bring in. And then underneath, we have 2 stools that we can pull out and put right here in our breakfast room when we need to seat more people at the table. So it's really all thought out, and you know, there's a purpose for all of it. So you'll see that I went with all white trim in here, and that's because the wallpaper kind of, you know, explodes color. So this, I wanted to keep it very neutral so that when we extend to each other room, they make sense and it kind of tells the color story and it doesn't clash. So this is kind of introducing each room on its own. So my design style is kind of a mix of traditional and modern. I grew up in Columbus, Georgia. My mom was a decorator. My grandparents' house was so beautiful. Also, my grandfather was an upholsterer, so there were just pretty things all around me all the time. I grew up in a pretty house. What I wanted to be a little different from the houses that I was used to growing up is I love a modern edge, and everything in Columbus was way more traditional. So while my grandmother had beautiful chinoiserie drapes, I wanted those drapes but in a burst of color. And you'll see that throughout the house. I love chinoiserie, I love modern, and I love traditional. So it's all a big mix, which, you know, there's not really a name for that, I don't think. But I'm a big, you know, believer in you decorate with what you love and what makes you happy. So now we're gonna go into the dining room, which is probably my favorite room in the house, and you'll see why. I love pink, and this is a big burst of it. So here's our dining room. It's the jewel box of the house. It is an explosion of pink, which I love, I already told you, but it's also so much more than that. So the pink grounds all the background of the china that's been handed down to us. It also, I pulled it from Aunt Vinnie's dress, which is my husband's great aunt. It's an oil painting that was passed down to us. And one of the things that I love about this room is that I mix so much tradition with modern, and that's why I have the bright white table. It's very contemporary, but that kind of helps offset all the hot pink lacquered walls, you know, the fine china that could also be seen as stuffy, and then the oil painting. So I really wanted to make sure that we had a good mix of both so that you could really feel good in this room. And then also the clear chairs are from Worlds Away, and they come in this pink, yes, pink shea green, which is easy to clean and wipeable, so I don't have to worry about the kids eating in here or messy adults either. But I wanted, you know, to make the room still feel open even though it's not a huge room. So that's what we did with the furniture. So I really love the chandelier in here. It's by Julie Neal. I love the shape of the globes. It's just, you know, has all the little detail, and it just screams like, this is sophisticated, but it's also fun. And then the big thing in this room is I want people to display what they love, like their collections, or, you know, tell a story about their family. And that's what we've done with the custom wall, so that we could, you know, show all of are passed down china from my family, from Caleb's family, because what good is it if it's just sitting in a cabinet? I mean, because we're not eating on it every day, so I at least want to look at it and enjoy it. So when we got married, I picked this china. It's Heron, and I love it because of all the bright colors. And it works so well with everything in our house. So that is what we picked when we got married. But then we have, my grandmother's china, Caleb's grandmother's china, and I really wanted to be able to enjoy it. So when we had this built, you can see there's grooves. There's 4 on each shelf so that you can actually stand them and not worry about them falling over. And then usually for big birthdays or Mother's Day, Caleb will get me little pieces of the Heron so I can also add to my collection, because I just love collecting things, pretty things, and I love displaying them, because what's the point in having them if you're not going to show them off? So usually when I'm hosting, we will create the tablescape based on who's coming over. Are they a little more fancy, or are they a little more, comfortable? And so lots of times I'll have candles and fun colors, just because that kind of sets a mood for dinner, and I think that's nice. Always flowers, or depending on what china I use or plates, that's how I decide if I'm gonna have a tablecloth or if we're gonna do, fun festive placemats or napkins. But usually I have like little bowls of candy or something fun and extra that, you're not really expecting, but to make them be like, oh, that's fun. So I loved bringing in this console from Worlds Away because I love the Cerussed oak. I think it just adds a little texture and depth to this room without, being too stark, because of, I don't want it to contrast too much against the hot pink. I want Aunt Benny to shine. And then also these pieces from my grandmother, I love to display. They're so beautiful, and I just remember them sitting in her house every time I went over. But, and then again, here we are mixing in a little more modern with these contemporary lamps. These are from Visual Comfort, and I love the color. Chartreuse is one of my favorites, and I think it all just works so well. The drapery fabric is, a chinoiserie print that has all my main colors, and then I brought the colors down, but even electrified even more in the carpet, and that's for 2 reasons. I love all the colors in the modern design, but when it's really busy, if there's a spill like wine, that's hard to get out. And so this room kind of goes back to my love and mantra of sophisticated fun, because we have all the fun colors, the bright pops, but then we also have our traditional china and heirlooms that were passed down that we really want to show off to help tell our story. So what's really funny is I started out in fashion, and I lived in New York, and I worked for Marc Jacobs. And if you're familiar with Marc Jacobs, he's super edgy, super loud, fun, and vibrant, and I was just taken away with that. And what I realized is that I could actually bring a little bit of New York back to Georgia, and it didn't have to be just fashion. It could be all of your surroundings, and that's where Colordrunk started. The idea for it, at least, it started as a blog, and like as most people did. It's just, I love color. I love the way it affects your mood. I love, how it describes your personality, and it just makes people feel so much better. So you'll see a lot of color throughout my house. So now I'll take you to one of the most loved rooms by everybody in the family. It's right across from the dining room, and it's not bright pink, but it's bright yellow. Okay, so this room is so much fun. It was, built to be a formal living room, and I realized, why have a formal living room that's stuffy and no one can use? And we have 3 kids, 4 dogs, and we needed another space because we live hard in this house. And it's the color yellow just like invites everybody in, so you don't think of it as a stuffy room. It's just really fun and inviting, and it's where we play games, like we play mahjong. We, switch out everything on this table from homework to, it's just used so well rather than a formal room that's so stuffy that, you can't use. So before our second renovation, we already had this banquette and this fun print. And when we were redoing this room, I was like, let's just, throw it out there and let's put it on the walls too. And I love it because it really grounds the yellow. So the yellow's not too much in your face. So it's kind of like which one's, they're both screaming for attention, I guess. So I really love contemporary art, and this piece by Evan Mooney is one of my favorites. We had this commission, and she did all the colors for me that we find in the wallpaper. And then again, I have the dots, which kind of are a little nod to the foyer, and also the trim on our doors that I had made. But I just think it makes it so much more fun and so much more livable and comfortable. But So again, I said we have 3 kids and people are fighting over TVs a lot. Maybe that's not great, but 2 of them are teenagers and people need their spaces. So a lot of time this room is used for, football games or movies with friends or, just a space to come where you're not having to be with your sister or 5-year-old brother. Jonathan Adler is one of my favorite designers, and these are sofas from his company, and I love them so much. I love purple. I love the way it plays against the yellow, and the bouillon fridge on the bottom. Again, it's just where it's screaming traditional meets modern, and I love it. They're so comfortable, and of course, I've layered them with bright, funky pillows. I love patterns. That's no surprise, but we've got the little food dogs. We've got Rainbow. We've got the tigers. We've got, just a little bit of everything in this room, and I think that's okay because this room is supposed to be really exciting. It's supposed to be really fun. It's a room for, visiting friends, playing games, and just living life. So this is kind of my pop art room where I could go really crazy, and it turns out I think everybody in the family loves it, even my husband. But we have, the clear table, and that was on purpose because we have so much going on in the space. We packed a lot in here, color and furniture, so it's really livable. Lots of fun coffee table books. Like I'm a big Dolly Parton fan. And we've got Punchy, which has always been one of my favorite designers. All kinds of fun colors and prints. Artist books, like photographer books, like things that people are actually going to pick up and flip through. They're not just pretty. They're actually something for you to do when you're sitting in here. And all right, so our last name is Gross, and we thought, let's just have fun with that. And we had Gina Julian make these incredible balloon pieces that look like real balloons. And again, we are all about not taking ourselves too seriously. We want people to come in and feel like, hey, they're kind of fun, or they're not gonna judge me. We just love kind of quirky, fun stuff. And so this is really great. She's super talented and did such a good job, and I think it's such a good conversation piece in the house too. So because I went so bold with the window treatment, the wallpaper, the paint, I wanted to have a little bit more of a muted carpet. And that is where when you're using color like this, you have to be so careful. So the carpet is still a rainbow if you look at it closely, but it's like a very faint, it's not as bright as everything. So it's not competing, because I didn't want the carpet to be the main focal point in the room. And then I just love, like I said, the pop art, and then really quirky things like these from Furbish, the pillows. Like that'll make somebody laugh when they come in. So again, that makes them feel good. And they're just super cute. And then the swivel chairs, these were vintage that I had recovered. And so it's actually nice because you can be part of this conversation area, watching a football game, or you can turn around and be part of the game table. So that's kind of where I was going with that. So the room is a weird shape. I mean, the fireplace is beautiful, but the layout makes it a little bit difficult to fit what you need to in here. So that was my solution for that, and it's really worked out wonderful. So the little pink poofs are just additional seating if we need it. I think we've got that covered in here, but I try to stick those under coffee tables and clients' houses too, because people always need more seating when they're hosting. And then this table has been really great. We use it for backgammon or mahjong or homework even. Like this room kind of is lived in really hard and really well, and we love it. So goodbye to stuffy formal living rooms. Create something that people are attracted to and want to be in. So I mentioned earlier that we almost bought a mid-century modern house because I love that style so much. So you see that in here with the lower profile sofas. You see it with, these lamps from Visual Comfort. They're a nod to mid-century modern, but also pink and, a little more traditional. And then up here, I have a Colleen and Company custom light that I picked the colors and I love the design. It's just one more thing to look at when you're looking through the room, and I love all those little unexpected details. So the overhead light really makes a statement. The yellow is just a plain ceiling, and so this really pops, and I love it. It's by Colleen and Company, and she can do any custom color, and I love all the little details to make, the ceiling fun too, because we can't leave that very boring. When we bought the house, the fireplace was already here, but it didn't look like this. But instead of ripping it out and redoing everything, we just, got new marble here, and then I had a carpenter build this for me. I drew it out on a napkin, and we added the fluting detail just for a little bit more fun, little unexpected fun. And then again, the circles that you see in our hallway in the wainscoting. And then also you see on all the custom doors we had made. And I just think this is so beautiful, and just makes the house look so elegant. And then the hardware was very important to me too, because you'll probably hear people say it really is like the jewelry, but I believe that it's like the one added touch that maybe you didn't think about. You didn't think it was a big deal, but it really is. And then we have these fun, umbrella stands that my mom gave me, and I think they work so well in the room and help add another layer to the fireplace. I really love mixing in, things that I buy and I love, and then also pieces that were at my grandparents' or my mom's, or anything that's special and, tells a story. And I love this. If it doesn't scream my style, it is just so pretty. Love the brass and love all the detail, and it's perfect in this room. When I started designing this room, I really wanted the color to be something that was very inviting. I'm a big believer that color affects your mood. And so this yellow is, screams like high energy, let's have fun in here, let's have a good time. So I wanted it to be a room that was a conversation piece. So when you're hosting friends, they see fun details, or they see pop art that, wouldn't necessarily fit all over a traditional house. But again, I mix traditional and modern. But this room really screams color drunk, and kind of what I stand for is that color really can make you feel so good and alive. So I would say that my mantra is sophisticated fun. So that's where I blend in traditional pieces, but maybe in bright colors. Or, in my family room, it's a traditional grass cloth, but in a bright chartreuse. So I want people to understand that they can decorate with traditional pieces or sophisticated pieces and make it fun by bringing in color. Now, with patterns, that can be tricky, and you really have to think through it. You have to mix in a large scale with a small scale and have one that has all multiple colors that kind of bring all the colors in the room together. So most every time you have guests over, they use the powder room. And I wanted this to be a space that feels really, really fun. And so that's why I chose this mural by Aubrey. And it feels like you're in a tiny little garden, which I think is so unexpected and fun. And then we pulled out the orange. We had this cabinet custom made with a really fun knob by Modern Matter, again, because it's kind of like a little ode to the snakes that are hidden in the wallpaper. And it's just a really crazy fun space. So I think my favorite thing about our home is that we have the kitchen and the family room that are open, but we have the 2 steps that go down into the family room. So it creates a little bit of separation. And that was actually something that was part of the house when we bought it. So we didn't change that, and I'm glad we didn't. So welcome to our kitchen that I do not cook in, my husband does. We wanted it to be really bright and white because it is the actual center of the house. It opens to, 3 different spaces. And, we wanted all of our things to pop, like the art, the carpet, and this custom tile. I love it so much. So you'll actually notice that I have this color in every room of the house. It's kind of maybe a tip or trick is to pick one color you love and have sprinkles of it throughout, so it just helps all the color flow kind of seamlessly without you even realizing it. But I had these custom colored, and I think they became, such a pretty backdrop, almost like a piece of art, and they really, stick out against the white cabinets. So with the white cabinets, I didn't want them to be boring. I love that white cabinets are so crisp and make the room feel really clean, but I did add the fun hardware from Modern Matter, which, just screams a little more modern, and it's just more exciting. And I love how it pairs with the blues and the whites and the grays. I feel like that's super classic. The countertops are marble. They're Alabama white marble, and I know people are so scared to use marble, but I live in a house, like I said, with 3 kids and 4 dogs. We live in this house. Things are gonna get banged up. They're gonna show a little, stain, and that's okay with me. And I love the look of marble. I love how it's, a natural stone and just really feels very classic and timeless. So my husband enjoys cooking, I do not, and this is a great surface space just for him to do all of that. But also when we host, this is where people gather, so we can put chips and dips and everything out, and everybody kind of stands around, and it's just a great flow of the space. And then, people can walk down into the living room, they can pull up a chair at the island, and it's just, easy way to host when we have a space like this. Again, we love art, so we want to showcase it in every nook and cranny that we can. So this is by Kath Jones, which is a super fun artist in Georgia. And then this is also one of my favorite pieces because I love the little daubs of paint, and I think it's nice to mix something a little more modern and traditional together, and so that they don't take away from each other. And we went with the neutral frame, so the art actually pops off the wall. And then to bring in more color, I have these colorful O-Shacks by Lumen Co., which is also one of my very favorite vendors that I use in most clients' homes. Lots of colors, lots of fun, and again, a nod to that sophisticated, fun look that I love. And then coming here, you know, this is where the kids sit, they eat, they do homework here, we talk about their day. And so while this fabric is a little more whimsy, it's still fun for them, and it has all the colors that I love and just kind of serves as a punch for this white kitchen. If you're gonna start a renovation, I would say definitely hire professionals, and that's an interior designer, that's a builder who knows what they're doing, and it's professional tile installers, wallpaper installers, people who are gonna do it and do it right. And you know what, sometimes that can go over budget. So I say start in the heart of the home where you're living the most, and then branch out from there. But you can do the renovation, invest in all the quality, you know, hard finishes, because later you can add soft goods and you can add over time what you can't do in the very beginning when you're setting that foundation. So this is probably the space we spend the most time in. We start our days here, breakfast, my oldest do their homework here at night. It's just kind of open to the kitchen, which is where we usually are, either cleaning up or prepping lunches for the next day. And we love that all the art in here is so energetic and exciting. So they get to see this when they're starting their morning, and it kind of, you know, gets them ready for the day, prepares them to be excited and hopeful. The banquette shape is great because you can fit so many people. And again, we have 3 kids with lots of friends over, so we can squeeze them all in there. And then the chairs, I like to say, you know, business in the front and party in the back. So these are easy to wipe, easy to clean, but then our fun fabrics on the back so you can enjoy it when you're not sitting in the chair, and it adds that layer of pattern that I love in all my spaces. So we've been collecting art since we got married, and we have a mixture here of, you know, prints of, you know, really nice oil paintings, really, you know, collector's items. But then we also have, you know, things by our children. So it's kind of a great mix of high, low, and just kind of tells the story. If you love it, put it up and enjoy it. So the light is by Marjorie Skouras for Curry & Co. And she created this light in a collaboration with them, I guess 15 years ago. And it's one of the first things that I bought for our house. And it used to live in the dining room, but when we did our second renovation, I moved it here because I just love the kind of fun feel it has. And I wanted to create more of a jewel box statement in the dining room. So when I'm working on a room, I usually pick one main fabric, and that's the star of the show. And it's usually multicolored, not always, but my preference is for it to be. And so the Citrus Garden by Schumacher is one of my favorites. You'll also see it in other client homes because they ask for it after they've seen it in my house, because everybody loves it. It's got lots of blues and greens with just little pops of bright colors. And then this is actually from my Tipsy line. I have my own fabric and wallpaper line, and I bring in all the colors that I love and wanted to put a little bit of that in here. So one thing we really love about the space is that it's open to the kitchen, but it's also open to the family room, and you'll see how they all flow together, and you just go down 2 steps, but it creates a little division, but it's still all one big happy space. So my husband and I really love to host, and when we do, we want it to be laid back, not stuffy. Growing up, I remember my mom would always turn on all the lamps because she would say it just makes it feel better in here, and it's true. Like, I'll go turn on the lamps in the dining room at night, even if I'm not going to be in there, just so people can enjoy it from the street. I know that's silly, but when people come over, we want it to feel very comfortable. We think that the house is decorated in a way that kind of screams we don't take ourselves too seriously. So come in, have fun, and you know, sometimes we ask people to bring something, so it does feel like they're, you know, they feel a little more comfortable, I think, if they've contributed. And what we do on our end is we think through who's coming over, what do they like, what are, you know, some things we could decorate that bring out their personality. And I think that's a fun little tip so that they feel really good in your home. All right, so I love when you walk down the steps, you feel like you're in a cozier space, but it's still open to the kitchen and the breakfast room, which is awesome. And I wanted the space, don't hate me for saying this, but I hate when people put their TV over their fireplace. That's not my favorite thing. So I wanted there to be 2 focal points, and that's the fireplace and the TV all at once when you're sitting in the main seating. I just feel like they both need to, you know, get their own time, I guess. But so this room has super tall ceilings, they're 14 feet. To make it feel a little better and cozier, I put this grass cloth in, and that just always helps the room so much. That texture just exudes comfort. But I did it in a chartreuse color, which is so fun. And I feel like it's just such a good contrast with the pink and the blue, which you see, there's that blue again kind of throughout the whole house. But here it is again in tile, and I just love color blocking because I think it makes such a statement. And it just serves in this room a really great, you know, backbone for all the accessories and collections we have up here, photos, and so we can really enjoy these. The art above the fireplace is by Michelle Armis. She's actually a local interior designer here, and I got it from Greg Irby Gallery, which is also here in Atlanta. I love her take on abstract and color. She's a master of color. I love that it's the focal point here over the fireplace. So when you look at our built-ins, they are a mixture of books we love, books that were at our grandparents' house, photos of our kids, of my parents, of all the collections, and a lot of things that we really love to display are pieces that we get from travels. Like we've gotten this from Mexico, this on another trip to Mexico, that one from Mexico. We go to Mexico a lot, but we, you know, again, we want to show the stuff that we love, and you know, these remind us of great memories we had with the kids and fun trips. So it's not like I just ran to a store and pulled stuff to throw on the shelf. This is all stuff that's been collected over a long time. And I like to mix it around, freshen it up sometimes. But I think it's important to have a good mix of all well-loved things on your shelves. So earlier I said that Citrus Garden was my favorite fabric, but I think I might have told a story because this is another Schumacher fabric that is called Chiang Mai Dragon. And again, it's that chinoiserie I love, and it's all those in-your-face, bright, bold colors. These are the chairs that our 2 teenage girls sit in all the time. And as many times I've asked them not to have a coat down here, they do anyway. So it's just one of those things, like if they spilled it, you're probably not gonna see it because the fabric's so busy. And I think it's a good kind of like, you know, it grounds the room over here since everything else on the other side's a little bit heavy with texture and pattern. So that's why I went with that on these chairs. So the rug's a really good foundation to the space. I love, again, Jonathan Adler sofas with the cute ball feet, some of my favorite details, because again, I love details. The blue leather is great for kids and dogs, easy to clean, easy to wipe. And then again, we have this bold drapery, which, you know, just totally sets the tone for the room. It, you know, it's also kind of a nod to like 50s, 60s, like, you know, you can close it and you just have the whole wall of fabric. Again, the carpenter that loved me so much, I had him cut this in my backyard, and it was cool. We drew it out together and we measured, and I love that it's not a soft fabric balance like you see most of the time these days. I wanted it to, you know, pull in the pink from the cabinetry because that is so bold around the rest of the room, so this kind of grounds it a little bit more. But I also wanted it to help, you know, make this pop too. All right, so when we started the renovation of this space, it actually all started in this room. And we did have builder grade French doors and 2 little windows. And what we wanted to do, because we love to host, is to have sliding glass doors that open all the way so that we can open up and enjoy the backyard and the family room all at the same time. So that is actually the one thing we wanted to change. And then it snowballed throughout the whole first floor of the house. So again, this room is really large, so we needed a large coffee table to help fill the space and so that people can access it from wherever they're sitting. And again, it houses a bunch of books that are really fun to look at. We've got photos on the bottom. We've got treats for people. It's just a really fun piece. It's covered in a grass cloth too, so it adds in a little more texture. I love to bring in texture wherever I can so the room just feels totally layered and comfortable. When we were renovating the space and the whole first floor, we had all these oil paintings that were passed down. This is my dad when he was a boy. This is my grandmother, who we called Lady Violet. And then there's an artist in Columbus, where we're both from, Butch Anthony, and he takes oil paintings and old ones that he finds and then draws like really fun, crazy, quirky stuff on it. So I felt like that was a really good way to kind of marry the two and again scream like things don't have to be so stuffy. And then we just mix them here with our super modern sofa and the chinoiserie lamps that I love and I've had forever. And I love to blend, but you have to be careful to do it where it makes sense. So while I'm a real dog lover, we have 4, I also love food dogs. I feel like they are so playful and whimsy and so much better than just a plain lamp. So this little pillow used to live in my husband's grandmother's house, and nothing could scream my aesthetic more than this, because it says Gross, our last name, but it's also hilarious if you're immature like me. And the needlepoint, the pink and green color combo is my favorite. And again, I just think it's so sweet that it kind of tells our story and that we have a piece of his history just sitting on our sofa. Welcome to our mudroom. This space serves so many purposes. This is where the kids come in. They take their backpacks off, their coats, their sports, and throw them in these cabinets. And then we have the drawers specifically for their shoes, one for each kid, so that they can finally know where their things go, not in the middle of the floor. And obviously I wanted more detail, but these actually create a little ventilation so that, everything that's in there can breathe if it needs to. And the color, again, is that one that you see throughout the whole house. But I just took it, from floor to ceiling in here. I love it. It's a nice burst. It'll wear well if there's little, dings, dents. And then we have these stools that are out of one of my Tipsy fabrics again. This one's called Hullabaloo. And this is so you have somewhere to sit. You can put your shoes on, or we can pull them in the living room if we need more seating. The valance in here is a little bit of an ode to the valance we have in the family room, but it's a little more whimsical and fun with the, chevron style fabric. And then we have just the color block of pink against the blue, again, to play nicely off the family room fireplace. And then, the light is super fun. It doesn't give off a ton of light, but that's okay because this room is mostly windows. So I wanted to pick something really unexpected and makes you smile when you see it. So this is our bedroom. In this space, I really wanted it to be fun, but still serene, because this is where we end the day. This is where we come after a long day of work, of bussing the kids around. And I wanted the colors to make us feel relaxed because, again, I think that colors can really affect your mood. But while I wanted the colors to be calming, I wanted them to be fun and exciting. So that's why, I created the custom headboard with my upholsterer in this really fun shape, really fun pattern, still with all the calming colors, but it's very exciting. And then because I'm from the South and because most Southern girls love a monogram, I do have that mixed in on our pillows and our bedding, but it has, it's paired with the fun purple trim to make it a little more modern. And we just love it. Like, it's a great place to end the day. The carpet is a Madeline wine rib rug that I've had for ages. I love it. She doesn't make them anymore, so it's a really special piece. It's got that bold color I love, the fun motif. And then at the end of the bed, we have this bench, which sometimes serves as a clothes collector. But really what I did is create it for extra seating, and also we hide the dog bed underneath it. So they have their little space where they can feel tucked in to at night. If you were to ask me what makes a house a home, I would say the personality that you display in the house. So We have everything from fun art to traditional heirloom pieces that were passed down from grandparents. And I think that tells our story, and I think that's really important. And I think you just remember to decorate with what you love, not what's super trendy.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.